back, everybody, to another well, not podcast, but welcome to the preview show. We got Norwich tomorrow. Who we got in the chat? We already got QPR Ryan in the chat. Ryan, welcome into the chat again. Hello, mate. How are things? I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm not gonna lie, bit nervous for tomorrow. But I think hopefully tomorrow is the start of a new year. Well, it is the start of a new year, but I mean in the sense of hopefully it's a start of something where we can bring consistency back. You know, this big word consistency is a big thing for Julian, and hopefully it's a thing that comes back into it. So yeah, bit nervous though, I will say that. But yeah, hopefully tomorrow morning we got some good news. Hopefully we get an announcement. Look, we're gonna talk. Obviously, we'll talk about it in a bit. But we got an announcement of Paul Smith. I have already today. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Paul Smith signing a new contract. I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I am correct. There is talks, but we'll get into it. We'll get into transfer talk afterwards, after the match preview. We will. But yeah, happy New Year. The transfer news rumors have just really pissed me off today. Oh really? How comes? Tellboy is in the chat. We do in a bit. I don't know if you're gonna join up. I know Lewis might be playing in a bit if you're in or what. So yeah. Nick, welcome into the chat. Hiya, DB, happy New Year. Well, happy New Year to you, Nick. Good to see you in the chat. Surprised we got a couple of people in the chat. I thought people would be getting busy tonight. But yeah, welcome in. Hopefully you're all good. Yeah, we got our match tomorrow anyway. We'll be talking about it in about 2 minutes, I would say. Just jumping on, just checking some news before we get into it, because I know tomorrow I got a funny feeling we will get an Instagram post, Twitter post, whatever you want. I think Ronnie tomorrow is gonna be a thing. I don't know why, but I got a funny feeling about Ronnie tomorrow. Just because Southampton say they want 5 mil plus, just remember it's you know it's hard to say, but I think personally, depending on wages, QPR might be able to do it. You know, it might be their only signing, but they might be able to do it. You never know. You know, there's ways around it, but we'll see what happens. But like you said, you're right. You know, so sometimes what journalists say are not all correct. Depending on what the journalists say, unless it's actually come from an actual Southampton source, then cool. I understand that completely. But far as I've heard is that there's nothing negative at the moment with anything stopping the deal from happening. So yeah. But yeah, hopefully you're all good today anyway. Right. Let's get into the match preview anyway. Let's switch the screens. Right, so I ain't gonna lie, I'm a bit late with this today. I know it's 7:15, it's not actually late, but you know, I've been pretty busy. But start of the season, what am I going on about? Start of the year, we have Norwich at home. Pretty much how we started the season off at home. I want to start off with a bang, you know. I want to see us in the attack mode straight away like we was against Preston at the start. I want to see consistency, like Julian always constantly is saying, consistency in his plan. I want to see a structure where I can identify what we're doing on a pitch, let alone just booing it up there and hoping for something, you know. Don't get me wrong, I know the attacking threat and the passing, we've seen it with Julian, you know, we know it's there, but the problem is we haven't seen it in a while, you know. Pompey was a bit of a letdown, West Brom was definitely a bit of a letdown, and obviously there's other games there as well, you know, Norwich City, for example, you know. And one thing that I want to see right now is Steve Bold pull his fucking finger out his ass, and I want to see some more clean sheets, you know. I want to see some better defending at this start of the year. And if it means bringing in players, then cool. But at the end of the day, right now, we only can use the players that we have. So please, come on. Let's get our heads on straight. I want to see consistency, clean sheets, a bit more clean sheets. I'm not saying every week, but I also want to see goals as well. You know, we have, in my opinion, 3 top strikers. You know, we have Richard Kone, Burrell, and we have Miki Frey. You know, Frey hasn't played that much, but you know, I can't really sit here and say, you know, why he hasn't played, because at the end of the day we have 2 strikers that are in form, you know. Technically 1 striker in form and 1 striker that is meant to be our best, you know, best signing. So yeah, that's what I want to see tomorrow. I want to see consistency. I want to see better defending. I want to see a team that actually want to go out there and win a game. And I also want to see, you know, I want to see us how we played Leicester. I want to see how we played against Preston. I want to see those type of games where all we do is attack and then not relax so much with a deep line. You know, I want to go high line. And I know he can do it because he did it with other teams, you know, Rennes, Strasbourg. It's a different tactical structure. And I know I keep saying patience with him because obviously he's brand new into this league. But I honestly feel like if he takes the risk, he might actually find something, you know, that he might be good at, you know. We've seen French managers do well in the Championship. There's no problem there. But I just want to see, the fact being that I don't want to see another game like West Brom, and I don't want to see another game against Portsmouth, and I don't want to see another game like Coventry. You know, they're the 3 worst games, you know. I could take the Middlesbrough defeat and I could take the Norwich defeat. You know, Norwich was horrible, you know, but it was away. So I can perfectly go and buy and say, you know what, it's something that it happens, you know. But defending wise, I really want to see it a lot better at home. I don't want us to concede at home. I don't want us to lose at home. Let's put this as a New Year's resolution for QPR. We want in 2026 at home undefeated and clean sheets. Maybe that's pushing it a bit with the clean sheets, but I want to see an undefeated home streak at Loftus Road for 2026. You know, that's what I want. And if we start off tomorrow and we kick off the half of the season, start of the year with a bang, go into the West Ham game after this and win that, that will make my year still. You know, if we can beat West Ham, do this, you know, start of the year, it's okay for me. I'll be happy, you know. But yeah, going into this game, you know, we know how Norwich are. You know, Norwich are a bit of a bogey team for QPR. You know, they're that club that seems to always kind of control the game and beat us. You know, they do really well. You know, they have a cracking team. I'm not going to lie, you know, and I've said this obviously because we've done the preview show for Norwich when we was away. You know, they're a cracking team. They have cracking players. They have a great manager now. They have, well, a good manager, I would say, in the American. But I honestly think, you know, when we was at home, well, when we was away at Norwich, you know, we showed that we could score against them on the bounce after they scored. You know, they're pretty much not the same team as they was 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago. You know, they've lost key players, you know. And honestly, I honestly think, you know, if we attack it right, we could outdo them. We can beat them completely, you know. They've just lost against Watford 1-0 at home. You know, that is something to look into. You know, I know they beaten Charlton 1-0 at home. They draw with Preston 1-1 away. You know, they beat Southampton at home 2-1, and they drew with Sheffield United away. You know, so all these games in the last 5 games they've had, you know, they're in form. They're in better form than us at the moment, and that's because of the manager. You know, but at the end of the day, if we look at what they're doing at the moment, you know, possession, you know, they're attacking with the momentum, so you know that they're gonna bring you the game, and they're gonna bring you they're gonna try and control the game. You know, Charlton Athletic at home, 62% ball possession, you know, expected goals, total shots, big chances. Charlton was really not in the game completely whatsoever. You know, if we go Preston at home, you know, controlled the game. Again, Norwich did, but they didn't really get any much happening until the second half. You know, if we look at Southampton at home, Southampton pretty much controlled the game, but they were more attacking, Norwich were, in the momentum, and that's how they've constantly scored goals, because they're constantly on the attack. You know, when they played against us before at their ground, you know, actually, in fact, I'll say this first. When they played Sheffield United away, they were possession side, and you know, they didn't really have that much chances, but I believe it was key aspects to their game where they took set pieces to account. It was actually an own goal, but you know, that's what I mean. So yeah, but for me right now, I would say this. You know, Norwich City is gonna bring it to us at Loftus Road, 100%. They always have, they always will. You know, they're that bogey team for QPR at Loftus Road, 100%. You know, as long as we can understand, because you know the threats last time. Everyone knows the threats last time. If we look at the previous game of what they played, you know, they did have an injury. They did have a big injury on the wing. They did. But when if we go to head, when they beat us 3-1 at their ground, right? They controlled the game, and they had more total shots, you know, big chances and stuff like that. And the main players that I would say that really did the job was Amakangwa on the wing, who scored the goal. You know, Mukundez in the middle scored a goal. Schwartau was a dangerous threat on the left wing. Sargent got an assist. Didn't really do much, but he was still a threat. You know, their midfield duo was really, really good at holding up the ball, passing up the pitch. You know, it was okay. It was like watching kind of like a Middlesbrough play, you know. But their defense always is on the, you know, it's always been defensive, you know, very, very like low block, you know, and we need to, you know, attack, pressure, consistency, and go from there. So yeah, Norwich City will bring it to us tomorrow, 100%. Now, going on to head, where we look at it the most, right, in the last five. So they've had more wins than anything. You know, we've lost consistency, constantly, I should say, and drawn more, and, you know, against Norwich. You know, the last win we had against Norwich was at home last season. You know, we won 3-0. But since then, it's been a draw and a loss, you know, and I honestly think we need to win this one. You know, 100% we need to go in this and win this. There's no doubt about it. You know, we need to win this and start the year off with a bang. It's that simple. You know, we're starting off at 9th, which is a big improvement compared to last season. You know, we're so close to the playoffs. And I think instead of looking and challenging for the playoffs and stop worrying about it, we need to take game by game and just focus on the tactic plan of what each team will do against us, and focus more on the team that we play in and more less than, you know, where we are in the table, you know, and where we're going to go. You know, if we focus more each game as we go, we'll do so well, a lot better. You know, there's certain players that I want back in this team, but obviously because of injuries, you know, it's something that we are struggling with, you know, such as Ilya Sher. Apparently he's back, but he hasn't really made a start. Harvey Vale was on the bench against West Brom. You know, you have Sam Field back. You know, we have some key players back now, so it should be much more stronger. You know, we're going to probably see some players go out on loan for sure. But, you know, we should be bringing on a pretty good team against Norwich at home. You know, unless he comes out with and says we got more injuries, and, you know, I know Jake Clark-Salter is injured, and obviously that's the problem right now, because obviously defensive issues. Esquidina put in a good performance against West Brom. Wasn't great, but he did a better job than usual. So that's a positive in my head. You know, Norrington Davis definitely needs to play in this one, or Sam Field at left back. But I'll be honest, Sam Field was not very great against Norwich at their ground. So that's something maybe we need to look into and change. But the game plan for Norwich is literally they're gonna attack us straight on the bounce and put pressure on us, you know. And we need to use either counter-attacking football and utilize our set pieces to basically get these goals, you know. I don't know who's gonna go and goal, whether it's Gnardi or Heyman, maybe Gnardi, but he seems to be changing the keepers quite a bit. When you know a performance is really bad the previous week, you know. So that's something we need to work on, but you know, we'll see what happens in January and go from there. Key players to watch, obviously Josh Sargent. Wright has been doing all right. Shortall, the winger that scored against us, like I repeated already. You know, McLean is pretty good in the air on set pieces, so we need to be careful with him. You know, Fisher, when I was watching Fisher at Norwich away, he really looked interesting and looked good. So that's right back position. So, you know, we need to be watching him a lot on the left side. I think in this certain type of game, I think we need to kind of... I don't want to say Mbenge at right back, but we need someone with a bit of strength to stop and pace to stop Shortall if he does play, and Josh Sargent. But Jimmy Dunn and someone... I would say not playing Steve Cook will be a good thing, but we need to play someone with Jimmy Dunn like Liam Morrison on the left back, centre back position, just for height wise and to clear them balls and to watch the players. So yeah, but key players to watch out for is definitely Sargent, Shortall, and Wright, McLean, and the Makwawa or something like that for Norwich, unless he's injured or anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much what we need to be careful with Norwich. Listen, look, we've played Norwich already. We know what's to come, you know. We've seen them beat us at their ground 3-1, you know, this season. So Julian should be looking into this and thinking, you know what, we know their game plan now. Let's go out and show them what we can do at home. It's that simple. So yeah. Let's look at the comments before anything else. Because obviously I've been running a little bit about QPR there. I'm sure QPR still got a bit left over from Eze, plus can always sell a few to get what we need, Nick says. I think we'll talk about that after. We'll talk about that one after. Good news for us is that the Norwich striker McCann is in doubt for tomorrow. Thank you. I should have read that before I even started this, but thank you for letting me know on that. I think as far as keeping clean sheets will happen if you can get and keep the same back line, hence a great keeper and good centre backs in Dunn and Ronnie, Nick says. Foley says, hey DB mate, hope you're okay. We definitely need change in form. Hope everyone had a good Christmas. What else says? Hope our home form comes back. We can definitely beat Norwich and Sheffield Wednesday. Well, first things first, Foley, it's good to see you in the chat. 100%. We've all missed you. We've all missed the banners and stuff like that. So hopefully you've had a good Christmas and good New Year. So welcome back into the chat. Hopefully you're with us tomorrow. But if you got to work, you got to work. I totally understand. But it's good to see you. And yeah, hopefully all good with you and the family and everything like that. So yeah, big W's for Foley. I think we need to revert back to our so-called bet 11. Not playing people like Morgan and Esquidina. I would say personally, Kieran Morgan, I would say we might want to send him out on loan now because, you know, when he was with Julian, do you know what? I think maybe I should talk about this after the preview show. I don't know. Yeah, I'll come back to that question after the preview show. I will. I'll come back to that. Nick says, at best we have to get 6 points, at worst 4. I would say at home it's got to be 3 points all the way now at home, you know, if we want to be happy. Foley says, it is a bit frustrating at latest results, but you're right, it's game by game. Nick says, no excuses for the lineup, expected to be the same as Leicester against Leicester. That would be nice, to be honest, if we played like that as well. Juicy Bear, welcome into the chat. Good to see you. Norwich are absolute terrible. QPR can smash this. I don't think they're terrible, personally. For what I'm seeing, I think they've been okay, you know. I think against Watford, obviously, it wasn't the result they wanted, but they outplayed Watford completely, and the goal came in the final stage of the game. What I'm guessing it was from a set piece, if I'm not mistaken. But far as I'm aware, it was Norwich, not always Norwich that was winning that. Foley says, yeah, thanks, mate. I'm not working tomorrow. I'll be here, mate. Awesome. Great news, Foley. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you are okay tonight. We're so close to New Year now. Well, the new 20. Well, what am I saying? The end of the year. That'll be best to say. So yeah. QBR says, to be honest, Norwich are pretty abysmal away from home. You say that, and I agree. I agree this season, obviously, with how their form is. But always think of it this way. Norwich have always been a threat against us at home. They always have, is the truth. You know? If you can name me one time we've played Norwich at home and actually dominated a game and completely killed them, I don't think I can think of one. And unless we're talking about the 1970s, 60s, 50s, whatever. But right now, if I go onto their head-to-head, we have not... Okay, tell a lie. We have beat them at home once, 7th of December last season, 3-0. Okay, my apologies. But I mean, in the sense of before that, like, the results are very atrocious and appalling at home and away against Norwich. So, yeah, I would say that one game was a bit different. So, yeah. What's up, Lofters? Welcome into the chat. Hey, DB, I tune in. I'm a bit nervous about tomorrow, but yeah, apart from that, hopefully you have a good new year, and cheers for tuning in tonight. Much appreciated, much thanks. But yeah, apart from that, I think that's pretty much sums up our match preview, in the sense of all of the tactic wise and what I think and what we need to do and all of that. Team wise, would be nice to see Nardi in goal for sure. I don't want to see Mbenge right back. I would actually rather see someone new at right back. Maybe be putting someone like, I don't know. You know, you could put Kieran Morgan there, but I don't think he does well at right back. But we need to put... do you know what? You know what? Give me a second. Hang on. Why not this, right? Why not this? And I know this, you might hate me for saying this. You might hate me for saying this. But if I go to teams right now, right? If Adamson is definitely injured or not ready to play or whatever it is, okay? Why not put Harvey Vale right back? Or why not give Jaden Putman a go? Why not give him a go? Why not? Do you know what? Let's give Jaden Putman a go at right back tomorrow. See how he does, okay? You know, he's young, he's talented, he's very pacey. He can catch the defenders on the run, you know. He's very strong, you know. And he's got, I'm not going to lie, he's got a good ball in the box, you know. He whips a good ball in. So why not? Let's not give Jaden Putman a game, you know. Let's see how he does. Play the youngster, see how he does. Because we need someone pacey and strong on that right back. And I like Mbenge, but I just don't think Mbenge does it on the right back for me, unfortunately. I just don't think so, man. I just, you know, Rocco Friel, you know, maybe him, he's a right back. Dude, you know, see what he does, you know. But try and see if you dip into the youngsters, man, for help with the right back scenario, man. Unless you want to play Keely Adamson, then cool. But apart from that, I think Mbenge needs to be centre back personally. I know he scored a cracker against Leicester, and I know he's been okay at times and proven wrong. But I still think, in my opinion, we need a better right back. Honestly, the right back scenario needs to be fixed. We need to see what's going to happen next. But in my opinion, why not try the youngsters? You know, why not try a youngster at right back? See what he does. What harm can it do? Just take him off. You know, you're playing Esquadina anyway. Give another youngster on the wing back a go. You know, see what happens there. But yeah, that's what I would say. I would want to see Liam Morrison and Jimmy Dunn in the middle tomorrow for sure, if Mbenge is playing on the right. Left back wise, Norrington Davis definitely has to happen. You know, Sam Field against Norwich last time wasn't great whatsoever. In midfield, if we go with a 3 in midfield, it needs to be Madsen, Varane, Hayden. That's what I think. You know, put Hayden and Varane together. Put Madsen just in front, or something like that. Put Ilias Share on the left. Put Poku on the right, or Dembele, whatever you want. And then put Kone or Burrell up front. It's that simple. That simple like that. But we should also be thinking about maybe putting Sato in the middle tomorrow, just to try him out and see what he does. But Harvey Bell's back in here. We'll see what happens. But that's my team prediction, what I think it's going to be. As you can see on there, you see the Norwich stats for the season. You know, they're not much of a threat, but they you know, on stat wise there, but on attack for the last, you know, since the new managers come in, they've been pretty brilliant in my opinion. You know, they've done all right. You know, they've not been amazing, but they're on form at the end of the day. So yeah, that's pretty much sums it up. So yeah, what we got in the chat, we've got some new messages. QBR Ryan says Morgan in the 10 could be interesting. I agree. That is a good shout, because I think he scores goals. You know, he's a goal scorer. You know, he's got a cracking shot on him. You know, all the goals he scored has been cracking. You know, Nigel Krask, I'll just call you Nigel because I'm really bad at pronouncing names. I apologise. But welcome into the chat. Good to see you. Norwich 3, QPR 1. Tomorrow QPR 1, Norwich 2. Sargent scores both goals. Okay, fair enough. You know what? Listen, look, I'm not going to discriminate Norwich whatsoever, because like I said, you're going to give us a challenge at the end of the day. You know, you're at bogey team at our ground, which seems to do always well. So, you know, I'm not going to moan and whinge about it, but, you know, it's good. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in and sharing your thoughts on Norwich. Much appreciated. Cuba Ryan says, yeah, Nigel, keep dreaming. Fair enough. Got to say, I like honesty of our players on their reflection of recent games, but they need to correct things quick. I would say, Foley, the problem is not just honesty. I like honesty as well, but the problem is, don't go into an interview with your head down. You know, it's not great. It's not a great look. You need to be motivational. You need to show the fans that, okay, cool, you've had a bad game, you understand it, but go out there and on camera and show the fans that you're still happy, man. You know, it won't happen again, type of thing. You know, look what Julian did. Copy what Julian does. You know, he goes and makes promises and, you know, brings the form back. So yeah. Foley also says 2 different results in your comment, Nigel fella. Nigel says, not dreaming, Watford was a blip. Sheffield United away in Preston we drew, which should have been wins under Clement. Norwich on the up, and away win tomorrow. Well, you know what, Nigel, listen, look, you know, I'm not, listen, look, obviously, as a QPR fan, you know, I'm going to say always QPR, you know, but I'm always honest about what I see on a pitch. You know, Norwich are a decent team. You know, they have fixed their form up from the start of the season by bringing in the manager, and they're doing a lot better now. You know, I'm not saying that they're going to win the league or go playoffs or whatever, but they're always a threat. They will always be a threat to QPR and other teams. They always have been, since getting promoted into the Championship and obviously into the Premier League and going from there. You know, you're like I said, you're our bogey team. You know, and it goes from there. But I would say tomorrow is going to be interesting to see what happens. You know, I think if we get the win, I think that's something to look out for. You know, and I am nervous about tomorrow. I'm not really confident because of recent results and form, but I still believe in my team, what they can do. I've seen what they can do, and I think anyone that comes to QPR should be worried at the end of the day, and that's that simple. So yeah, you know, each game goes differently when you're home and away. I believe you play a lot better at home just because the fans are your 12th man. And, you know, when Norwich is a bit like Loftus Road, when you score, that's it. You're rocking that stadium. It's that simple, you know, because it's such a closed-in ground. Like, you know, teams like Burnley, Leeds, Norwich, QPR, you know, when it's closed in, you're so close, you know, and it puts motivation and you know, it keeps the players going sometimes, you know. So yeah. QPR Ryan says Loftus Road is a fortress, mate. We aren't easy team. What? Hang on, I can't see that one. That's we aren't an easy team, lad. Like I said, we're not an easy team, you know. Like at Loftus Road, like I said, we're dangerous, you know, and that's us. But you know, when it comes down to form wise, you know, there's been some real poor results and poor times this season at Loftus Road. You know, for example, Ipswich Town, you know, Southampton. I would say we were unlucky on that one because, you know, they just brought in a good man. Well, just brought sacked a good manager, I thought, and brought in a development head coach. And he's killing it, and look what he's doing now. So yeah, but I would say we've had results at home that I feel like we should have won, sorry. And but just because we're being unlucky, pretty much like what the Norwich fan is saying, you know. So sometimes you need a bit of luck. So yeah. Fo says Kieran definitely got a shot on him. He's quality, mate. Listen, look, Kieran Morgan's shot is incredible. You know, he's scored against, what was it? His first game against Coventry, I believe it was Coventry. When it was a bit of a fluky goal, but it was very well taken to be in that position. The Watford goal, another brilliant goal, and the goal he scored against Birmingham just sums it up. You know, he's got a dangerous shot on him, and maybe it's best to use him as an attacking threat than a defensive threat, you know. Nigel says, respect to you, all good banter, love it. 100%. It's all banter at the end of the day. Like I said, tomorrow I could be like, fuck Norwich and all of that shit, but at the end of the day, you know, it's all banter, you know. I think tomorrow we're going to have some good laughs. We're going to start the year with a bang, you know, and we're going to kill another stream, you know, and that's what 2026 is going to start off with, and it's going to end off with us killing it yet again, putting QPR on the map. That's that simple. So yeah, but apart from that, I am going to talk about a little bit about news now. So far as everyone knows, tonight, Paul Smith has signed a new contract. He signed, obviously, it doesn't say what he signed, but he has signed a new contract to stay at QPR. He was going to be out of contract in the end of the summer, he was. And now, obviously, he's extended. And it does say has signed a contract extension, which only tells me it could only be a year or 2 years. Which I'm just going by a guess because of obviously what previous players have signed. So yeah. Nick says, if I'm not wrong, when Morgan got in the team, he played in the middle as part of a three. He did with Julian. Nigel, join us tomorrow, Fody says. There was I said that I'll go back to a comment. Who was it? What was the comment I said I was going to go back to? Can someone remind me of the? I think as far as keeping clean sheets will happen if you keep the same. I can't remember what it was. Freddie says Paul Smith, quality player, good morale in the team. You can see he's happy. Listen, look, Paul Smith is one of my favorite. I keep saying it, you know. Paul Smith has always been a good player to watch. Honestly, you know, first time he was at QPR. Very impressive, you know. And I keep saying this because I'm not tall myself, you know. I've played football. It's hard to get past certain players. It is when you play in a certain league. And confidence is key and everything, you know. Look at Messi, look at other players as well, you know. You just have to have belief. And for me, when I look at Paul Smith, I just see a guy with confidence and a heart, and he's not scared to take on players, you know. He does really well on the ball to get past players. It's that simple, you know. It's very exciting. He's not young anymore, but when he was at QPR, I thought he was going to be a breakout talent, such as Ryan Mason and some others. Not Ryan Mason, Ryan Manning, sorry. You know, we had some really quality players at that time, and Irish players as well, you know. And I just think Paul Smith is just different quality, you know. I think he is that guy that always is bringing the team's morale up, you know. He's such a happy, nice guy. So yeah, I'm happy that he signed a new contract extension. He can see probably what Julian's doing with him and what Julian's doing at QPR. So it's good to see that QPR and Christian Uri, Julian, and all the group there are giving him what he deserves is an extension, you know. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, will kill it for us always, you know, at the end. Or listen, look, I might sell him on FIFA and stuff like that because we need money, but at the end of the day, it's because of the money at the end of the day. So yeah, but I think he's a quality player. But apart from that, yeah, there's not much news. When you see stuff like this, usually everyone knows what QPR's like. They like to keep it interesting on Instagram and Twitter. They'll reveal something 1 week at a time, you know. And we'll usually see something at 12 o'clock in the afternoon about an announcement or whatever, a little tease. So hopefully, fingers crossed, tomorrow at 12 o'clock afternoon, before the QPR game, we see a lovely picture of Ronnie Edwards wearing a flipping QPR top with a long-term contract signed. You know, that'd be that would sum up my new year. That would be my new year. You know, I'd be happy with that. That would be amazing. You know, tomorrow, 12 p.m., just about to get on, and bam, we sign Ronnie Edwards. You know, it might not happen. No, doubt it won't happen. But that will make my year complete. Honestly, Ronnie Edwards signing. But I would honestly, there's other players that we're interested in. There is, you know, I think there's other centre backs out there that are really good that we can get cheaper as well. But you know, I'm a big fan of Ronnie Edwards, and it's that simple, like that. So yeah. Let me look at the comments. Nick says, if I'm not wrong, oh wait, sorry, I've seen that. Nigel will join us tomorrow for Paul Smith, quality player, good morale, the team, you can see he is happy. Nigel says, unfortunately can't make it, but I will be listening. Great club, QPR, and always well supported. Much love, Nigel. Thank you, man. Much appreciated. A happy new year to you too as well. Everyone give Nigel a big W in the chat, man. A happy new year, man, for tuning in. Big respect to him, honestly. QPR says, what's the verdict on Ronnie? Obviously from less reliable sources it says it's unlikely to we get him. QPR, fair play, Nigel, mate. GL for tomorrow. Yeah, Ronnie has got his place reserved in the dressing room. Hope we can afford him. Nick says, I have a funny feeling there's more chance of getting Ronnie than the keeper. Listen, I would say this, you know, you know, I would say this right now. I personally think if we sign Ronnie, we will not be bringing in anyone else. We will not be bringing in anyone else. If we get Ronnie in permanently, it will likely, chances are, just be loans after that. It will just be loan players and re-signing contracts and stuff like that, you know? Listen, look, Christian Nuri knows what the fans want. Christian Nuri clearly knows what the fans want, you know, and fingers crossed, you know, he can deliver. But we got kind of, like you said, be realistic, you know. It might not happen because of that, what you've said, Ryan. You know, you are right. You know, it's got to be there. So, yeah. It's the only thing that it's realistic to do. But I will say this. I don't know if anyone actually knew this, but I actually got remembered by a video today, which I tuned in. I know everyone mostly doesn't like Mark Goldbridge, but QPR may be looking at free agents right now to sign for the next, obviously, season abroad. You know, thinking about it as well. You know, we've done it before. And we'll probably do it again. You know, we'll probably be. January is literally planning for the summer and where we'll be. You know, so that's another thing as well. So yeah, James Stribley. Hopefully I pronounced it right. Welcome into the chat. Hopefully you're okay. Happy New Year. What's Norrington Davis playing like? Listen, look, Norrington Davis is a good player. You know, I like Norrington Davis. I think he is a traditional English defender or wing-back or full-back, you want to say. I think he might not be the most paciest, but if I had to go and compare him to anyone, and I'm not saying he's the same as this player, I'm just saying he has similarities to this player, I would personally say he is a lot like, I just got to remember the name. I'm bit of an idiot sometimes. I need to look at who the player was now. He is a bit like Andrew Robertson, in my opinion. He has a similar kind of persona to him, you know. He's very, like, tough, you know, looking tough. He doesn't mind fighting the manager, as everyone knows and seen what he did to Gary Rowett for who's Gary Rowett? Oxford, I think it was. I think he's left Oxford now, I'm not sure. But yeah, there was that. And you know, I think he's a good player. I think he's a really good player, and I'm happy that we signed him. We needed him at that time. You know, we had an injury, bad injury to a left back, but keeping it short, Norrington Davis is really good. You know, he's really done well. He's a good attacker as well as a defender. He's got a good ball in, and I personally think he wants to stay at QPR, and I think we'll make it happen, whether that's in January or whether that's in the summer. I think Julian likes him. Unless Julian wants to bring in a different player, a different type of left back that he would prefer. Apart from that, I can see Davis come to QPR, you know. In fact, how old is Norrington Davis? Ain't he like 23 or something like that? I can't remember. I could be wrong, actually. He could be like 28. Let me see. Davis. He is 26. In my opinion, it's still good age, man. He's younger than me. And most of, well, I wouldn't say most of the supporters that come onto QPR, well, come onto my channel, because lately we've been seeing some mad shit with age groups, man. It's mad. But yeah. Hopefully that helps, James. Hopefully that helps with what I've said. So yeah. What else we got? Foley, yeah, Happy New Year, Nigel fella. Nick says, good shout, DB. QBR says, from what you know, DB, what are the odds we get him? Do you know what? That's a great question. It's a great question because I can't answer it. I really can't answer it because you're right. There is a chance we might not sign him, you know? I would say this, right? From what I've heard and what I know is that all I'll say is this: Ronnie wants to move. Ronnie wants to move, right? But Ronnie also just wants to leave Southampton, you know? It's that obvious, you know? He wants first team football. He wants to be an international, you know? And the only way that's happening is if he leaves Southampton or if he's going to get game time, you know? And he's not getting game time. And, you know, it goes from there. So at the end of the day, it's potentially, if we can't afford it and Nuri says we can't afford it, it's either going to be a loan move if they allow the loan move, and a potential sign him in the summer, a potential like buy clause or something like that. Then I can see that happening, but that's more probably the realistic thing. But I would say personally, he definitely just wants to leave Southampton. You know, that is what I can promise you. So yeah. Cool. Foley says, another Danish player, pause. I've not seen anything on Danish players, to be honest. I only wait, hang on. I think we've only brought in Danish players before, not because of like the league we were scouting or anything like that, but I think it was more to do with the fact of Marty Fuentes. You know, I think Marty Fuentes has a spot for Danish players because, you know, I think he's managed in there before, so that's the only reason why I think we brought in some Danish players at that time. So yeah. Nigel says, happy and healthy new year to everyone viewing. Been a tough year being a Norwich fan. Liam Manners didn't work out, but slowly Philip Clement repairing the damage, but still touch and go. Stay up. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, you know, happy days to you, Nigel, and hopefully good new year for you guys. QB Ryan says, much love, Nigel. Hulk smash the like button for DB, Foley says. Thanks, thanks, Foley. QB Ryan, it really seems that Southampton are keeping him hostage. I don't think it's keeping him hostage, you know. Don't get me wrong, I get it, you know. I totally understand. If a player's not happy, just let him go. But the problem is, they bought Ronnie in for God knows how much. I think it was like 3 million or whatever it was. And you want to make a profit from a player, and that's the only way you're going to do it, you know, otherwise you're going to be losing money, you know, unless he runs down his contract or something like that. You know, a player actually can buy out their own contract, so, you know, but half the time they won't do that because obviously it costs them money. But yeah. Foley says Ronnie is sitting on the bench. It's surely a no-brainer. You know, hopefully, fingers crossed. Creepy Ryan. Surely him not even being on the bench for the last few games means something, right? It means something. 100% it means something. It just means that where is he going? That's the question, you know? Hopefully we get some news tomorrow or tonight. You know, usually on Twitter you find something out, but I don't know who his agent is. You know, his agent doesn't reveal anything. So yeah. James says, Sheffield United, my team, are looking to offload Norwich Davis, looking for 2 to 3 million. Fantastic player before his injury. He was in Wales setup. I think he's a quality player. I think he's class. Honestly, I think he's been brilliant for us. You know, he like I said, he reminds me a little of oh my god, I keep forgetting his bloody name. The player from Liverpool that I just said. Robinson, he just reminds me a little bit of him. I'm not comparing them, so don't kill me in the comments about, oh, he's a lot better and all that. I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying they have similarities. That's all, you know. But yeah, if it's 2 to 3 million, we won't sign him until the summer. That's that simple, you know. But I don't think he's worth 2 or 3 million. I think possibly 1 million at least, you know. Listen, he's been great and brilliant, but you got to remember, you know, depending on what contract, how long his contract is at Sheffield United. I don't know how long his contract. If his contract ends this season, at the end of the day, he might, you know, run it down and go from there. So yeah. Foley says R&D was a class signing for us on loan. Just to correct you there. QBR Ryan, who are the Twitter accounts to look out for, mate. Do you know what? I'm just gonna say it on here. Let me go on my Twitter quickly, because I'm just gonna say it because I keep forgetting to put it in the comments. I do apologize. Give me a second. I just Ryan's just tagged me. Let me look at this. Who this is? QPR John. Is this the person that? Mate, I'll be honest. Do you want my honest opinion? I would not listen to it one bit. Look at the followers and look at that. I would not listen to it one bit. One bit. Do not ignore that tweet. Ignore it completely. But going on to what the people that I was saying. So Patrick Berger on Twitter. Patrick Berger is a Sky reporter, but he focuses mainly on the championship and stuff like that and abroad. So I would say follow him on Twitter. He knows a lot of QPR. He brings out QPR stuff. There's a guy called @SportsPO. His name's called Peter O'Rourke. He is all the known foot. Like, he brings out everything on transfers and championship. So there's that. West London Sport, obviously. Ian McClough, who is a writer for West London Sport, he gets some attention as well. There's a guy called Tony Incenzo, who gets the odd rumor or two. Anyone else that I can see on here that I know that does it? Fabrizio sometimes tweets something here and there, but I'll be honest, out of all of the people that I've just said, I would say the most reliable one that I've dealt with is Peter O'Rourke. You know, Peter O'Rourke is someone that you can rely on. He's reliable. You know, he has a lot of following and a lot of followers. So yeah, I would, if you're gonna follow him on Twitter, follow him. He knows a lot. But all you really need to do is search up QPR and that's it. You know, pretty much on Twitter, and you'll get some news. As long as they have a good following, trust them a lot more. That's it. Simple as that. You know. Glad you said that, mate. Had me worrying. I would say do not listen to anyone that right. Okay. Do you know what? I tell a lie. I don't have a good following base on Twitter, you know, and I say stuff on there. But the problem is I don't announce it until I'm 100% confident it's actually a real source, you know. It's actually just something that I hear coming from a trustworthy source. That's all, you know, and that's pretty much it. So yeah. James says 18 months left on Norrington contract. I'll be honest, I'm going to tell you right now, if it's 18 months, He's gonna watch in the summer. I tell you, watch in the summer. You know, he's 26 years old. If his contract ends in 18 months, we're gonna grab him in the summer for much cheaper. I tell you that now. It will happen. If we do grab him, it'll be in the summer. You know, that's 1 year. He's got a year and a half left on his contract. Sheffield United are gonna make a big mistake there if they mess up that one. So yeah. But apart from that, is there any other news that I can tell you guys on QPR? So yeah, Paul Smith, we've done that. Julian, obviously, talking about tomorrow. Right, yes, there is some news on a youngster actually. Queen's Park Rangers winger Emerson Sutton is set to depart Loftus Road in January transfer window. When his spell ends at Morecambe. At the end, well, he'll be able to go back out on loan song because he returns, I think, technically tomorrow. So according to the journalist Pete O'Rourke, who is the guy that I trust a lot, who claims that Son is expected to make another loan move away from QPR next month once he returns from his stint at Morecambe, with a number of National League clubs, including Hartlepool, believed to be keen to land his signature. Son has been with the Arse since under 12 level, and he has caught the eye of during his rise through a club's academy ranks, with his most notable moment coming when he scored a hat-trick against Arsenal in the FA Youth Cup last season. So Emerson Sutton looks like he will be departing again on loan, but more to the National League, something more suiting to him, and waiting to see him grow as a player. So yeah, that is the only other news I can tell you right now, unfortunately, apart from Philip Clement and all of that. Is there anything else to cover? I think that's it until we hear some news starting from tomorrow. So yeah. Yeah, cute, Ryan. West of Loftus, what is going on with Ilias Share? I don't know. Listen, look, the last time he was on camera, I'll tell you this, it didn't look confident. I tell you that. It looked like he might be. It looked like he might be leaving. Honestly, the way he was talking, it was very serious for Chair. You know, I don't think he's gonna leave, but you know, when he came out onto the camera after when they did that thing with Mbenge, he did not look happy whatsoever. You know, he did not look happy, and apparently he's fit to play, but he just hasn't been picked yet. So yeah. Official time, the window opens usually 12 o'clock at night. 12 o'clock, I believe. But obviously, in sense, no one's going to make any transfers at 12 o'clock at night unless someone has signed plans straight away. I don't know. But yeah, last time we made Ronnie Edwards big signing literally tomorrow midday. It'll be a year ago tomorrow midday that we made Ronnie Edwards on loan. So yeah. But that's pretty much everything to cover for tonight. We've actually gone mad again with another long match preview. Obviously, you know, we stick to the match preview first, we did, and obviously gotten on to the Bizzo with a bit of QPR news. Hopefully you're all happy with that. We'll be live tomorrow. We will be from what time's kickoff actually? It was 3 o'clock tomorrow. I thought it'd be earlier because it's New Year's Day. Alright, we're live tomorrow anyway. From midday, well not midday, 3 o'clock tomorrow. And it's at Loftus Road, obviously, as everyone knows. And we'll probably be live. I would say 2:45. If we can get on earlier, I'll come on earlier and have a quick chat with you lot. Usually 15 minutes is enough to have a chat. But you know, if depending on how, if I'm busy or not, but yeah, we'll be definitely live tomorrow, 2:45, or from 2:45 I should say, and then we'll go from there, and should hopefully get to see QPR win their first game of 2026 at home. So yeah. Ryan says, brilliant stream, mate. Love the talks. Fingers crossed for tomorrow. Foley says, thanks for the stream, DB. Happy New Year to everyone in the chat. Thanks a lot, DB. Hope we can bring on some decent players. See you tomorrow. Hag1, Foley, mate. Cool. Cheers, DB and everyone. Listen, look, can we get a big W for everyone in the chat, honestly? Because listen, look, can we get a W as well for Nick, because he's been a real supporter for us, man, since obviously West 12 Loftus and QPR Ryan, you know. Big W for Loftus Road and Ryan as well, you know. You lot have been some big supporters of this channel, and much appreciate, much love for that. As well as anyone else is there who's not in the chat as well and who's tuned in. But we'll catch everyone tomorrow. We will. So yeah. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Happy New Year. Hopefully you have a good one tonight. Don't get too drunk, because I want you in the live stream tomorrow to wake up and make sure you're up and sober. Well, actually, some of you are not going to be sober. I might not even be sober. I doubt it. We'll see what happens. But yeah. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to, and don't forget, peace, love, positivity, and we'll catch you tomorrow for our watch along against Norwich. Peace out, everyone. Happy New Year. Let's kick off 2026 with a big one. Yeah. Let's go.